Middle-aged Ind. All right, let's talk about this initially weak-seeming nation in the Middle Ages. In an age with armor-plated nations like Ulm, undead nations like Ermor, and supergiant nations like Jotunheim, we have to attempt to figure out how our small human-based nation can compete, and not only that, but dominate others. This becomes an issue with several parts of our own nation attempting to trick us into traps, but I'm here today to point these traps out so you can avoid falling for them. Let's simplify Ind so you can try them out, play them without having to worry about a 2-hour guide or another calculus degree. That's kind of the purpose here. All right, let's take a look at Ind's troops. Overall, not terrible human troops. Their archer, just a standard short bow with an auto bless. Soldier priest, solid troops, 14 protection, 14 defense, good 16 damage attack, still only 10 hit points, but good morale, good magic resist. Little on the slow side, we have mirror guards, which are like the upgraded ones. You can only get 3 of these per turn, but they're worth the upgrade because they're just a point here, a point there, sort of thing. And then the Baculite, basically the anti-sacred troop that you have that just does Bane of Heresy, armor-piercing fatigue damage to gods and sacred units in an AoE 1. These guys are great if you get Sacred Rushed. The problem with these human troops is that they're good. They're quite good. If you look at their defense skill, their protection, they're solid. They're solid troops. But they're still humans. They're easily trampled. They're killed with evocations. They're just not killy enough to make them a huge investment. None of our humans here have multiple attacks, so while their attack skills and damages are decent, they aren't a great chassis for a huge kill bless. In addition, they're all cap only, so we really can't scale up our blessed troops as high as a recruit anywhere nation. Though we do benefit from each temple that we build granting us a +1 recruitment limit in the capital, we still can only recruit them in the capital. Can I also just point out one thing? One thing that drove me nuts in Dominions 5, Baculites, I loved getting a couple of these here and there just in case I ran into sacred troops. They had a combat speed of 11 in Dominions 5. Now they have a combat speed of 9, which matches the soldier priests. Oh my gosh, that is a huge quality of life improvement because the Baculites used to just run into combat ahead of everybody else if you put them in the same army to get the benefit of the standard, and they would just rush off and get slaughtered, and since they were the ones with the lowest protection, they got slaughtered really quickly. So that's just a really nice change from Illwinter that I really appreciated. But now they actually have a place in the party because now you can throw them into little parties of troops to give them a morale boost. This is a good subtle change, and I really appreciate that. Now let's take a look at our mages. We have an Abbot Sage. This guy's a good researcher if you take a magic scale, which is something we wanted to do just because of the fact that these guys are cheap, they have a low upkeep cost, and it's a really good way to get a bunch of research if we focus on that. Bishop Commander, the Bishop General, decent commander, but I don't like his lack of tools in combat. Remember, we have an auto-bless nation. We don't need him for blessing, so he really doesn't have great combat magic to cast unless we're against undead or something. So I just don't like him. I feel like Ind as a nation requires its commanders to participate fairly heavily in combat, even right from turn 1. So I really don't like him. Archbishop is the same thing, only worse because he's old. So it's the exact same thing, but just old. I don't like them. Primate Kings, these are my preferred leaders. They have great leadership skills, +2 morale bonus, good protection, good defense skill. They're not going to die to one random stray arrow. And the best part about them is that they get this little astral magic, and they also get nature, earth, water, fire random. That's awesome because then they can cast random buffs for themselves. The earth guys can buff themselves. The ethereal guys can all obviously buff themselves. Nature can give themselves bark skin. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of little quick buffs to make sure you don't get, straight crossbow bolted to death. And then they can run into combat and drop bombs on people with the divine damage spell if you have a good one. I went with a blood blessing, so we end up having a good one with the claim life. But it's just great leader. Now, when you look at the Abbot Magus, this guy looks great. Originally, he has good paths with the ability to do a communion, but the problem is he has no random path at all, and he's old. Fortune Teller is great, whatever, everything else is great, but he's not that tanky. He has no random paths, and he's old. That's a problem if we're talking long term. And if you look at the Magus Supreme, yes, he takes twice as long to recruit. Yes, he's basically the same, but with 1 astral, but he's our only source of a potential astral 4. He's our only source of water and nature. Basically the best mage we can get in our cap, and that's why I like him. Also, ironically, the better mage got younger. This is very different than most nations. Plus, this Fortune Teller is awesome. It just helps. But I love these Magus Supremes. They're so much better than just the basic Magus that I feel like it's a waste of turns if you're recruiting this Magus. When I get to other outposts, I like to recruit the Abbot Sages, generally speaking, but this is worth the extra turn. This extra magic path and the potential for the very rare Astral 4 is worth the extra turn that you're wasting to recruit the... Now, I'm going to talk more about national troops in terms of where you build the little horned men of Piconye or Lady Knights of Great Femini, the men of Great Oriande, Cynocephalians, my favorite, the Gogs, and the Giants. Alright guys, just wanted to show you a quick example of what you get when you build a castle in a forest province with Ind. You get these great huntresses, which used to be great because they used to be one recruitment point, and they generate you these free spawn lions, which are awesome. And the Oriande King, solid commander, not bad. The knight is good, but you have a better knight available to you. Crossbows, though, are what you want in just a basic crossbow, something that you don't have otherwise. It's any good, and you get a little chariot. Chariot are always okay if you know how to play the trample game. Nothing wrong with that, but the important part of this are the lions. These summon allies, one per turn. You can see they cost 0 gold per year for upkeep, but they're just basic hit point balls. Now, they're all a little different. Lions of strange color. This one, for example, has, I don't know, 24 hit points, 19 and 17 damage, whereas this one only has 18, 16, 22, but this one's stealthy. Blue one's my favorite because you can actually script these to guard commander. So these big old HP balls will sit on your commander and protect them. The black ones, they're stealthy as well. Oh, higher attack skill. So you're just looking at a bunch of different variations of these lions. And again, they're free. The problem is when you're recruiting, these take 2 turns to recruit, whereas just another Abbot Sage gives you, 12 or 13 research, whereas these give you no research. They just give you free spawn chaff. And I feel like you're better served getting an Abbot Sage. All right, guys, here we are with the Gog recruitment and the Cynocephalian recruitment. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that, but these are what you get in mountains or highlands when you produce a castle, and these are what I think are the strongest part of Ind in general. If you look, you've got great access to blood magic here. With good cross paths, you could get 2 death, 2 nature, and you can get 3 blood, which is your, I believe, best highest blood. Berserker 5, which is kind of terrible in combat if you want to script them to cast some spells, but really good access to death, nature, and blood for you. Then the Father has blood 2 or death blood or nature blood. Again, Berserker, strong. Nothing bad with having a basic. One of my favorites is a Gog, the Dog Father. Picking up a bunch of these reavers and then running out and conquering provinces and raids. The Shaman, not so great. Don't like him so much. And the Chieftain, not so great. No reason to pay that gold cost for him when you can really just focus on the Gogs. And the troops, the Flesh Hunters are okay. They've got a short bow, daggers, bite. These are the killers. The Gog Reavers. These Reavers will absolutely mop up any troops that they hit. They have Berserker 4, so this protection goes up to 15. This goes up to 16, 16, and 17 with, 25, 26 damage, 25, 26 here, and then 22, 23 here. These guys are absolutely vicious and disgusting. And a lot of times what I'll do is just pump them out. I will have Ordinary Commander patrolling and put them on him while I'm waiting for my fathers to be finished recruiting, because they usually take 2 turns. So you'll get 2 sets of these, so you'll end up with little armies of 20 of these and a father, and you can just send them out as little raiding parties. Phenomenal way to expand, fight, defend your provinces. Okay, and we're going to take a look at what I think is the most useless castle you can build. Anywhere you build in a wasteland, you can recruit these combatants that are either 2 fire, 2 earth, or 2 astral. They seem really strong, really good giants with magic weapons. However, both have 30 homesickness. They will be taking 1/3 of their health in damage every month they're not in their home province, which just makes them pure defense. And now in Dominion 6, the Fear of the Flood makes it even worse. So now these troops are even worse. I highly recommend avoiding building castles in wastelands just in general. I didn't want to have to go over this castle either. In the farmlands, you can occasionally get these Piconye castles, which are unfortunate at best. The king is kind of a joke. Terrible leader, terrible protection, terrible damage. The scholar is sort of cheap research, but for 88 upkeep per year versus your 60, why on earth would you go for this guy? 1 earth magic is not good in combat at all, whereas 1 astral, 2 priest level is. So I don't see any use for these commanders. Piconye peasant, I have very rarely seen worse units. Piconye slingers, not the worst, but not good. Spearmen, I mean, lots of attack density, but otherwise just terrible stats. It's like the exemplified problems with Ind made worse with a smaller size. I don't recommend this. All right, now we're going to dive into my pretender creation. Good lord, did I try. I tried all sorts of stuff. Some generic, keep our troops alive. What I thought I settled on after looking over the nation again and being pretty sure I could get high defense, get blur to skyrocket that defense, and luck. That actually worked pretty well, but the scales were so rough in terms of productivity and and the fact that I didn't have luck until the second year was a little tough. I kind of like this one. I might go back to it eventually and try it out, but the problem was I got slaughtered by, you know, anything that could do damage, because I really did no damage with my Sacred Troops with this build. Suicide Bombers, that was kind of an interesting attempt. Didn't really work out for me though with the extra sloth, because I couldn't really recruit anything. Then I went to my late game build, and this is sort of what I originally settled on, which was Charged Bodies was the way to go, and then Righteous Wrath was the way to strengthen all my troops. I figured my troops would run forward, they would get hit, they would die, the opponent would die, and then all the rest of them would get buffed up. Did not work out so well. Problem was that no matter how I played with the points, I was always running into problems with not enough money, always struggling to find money to get castles. Believe me, I went through about 30, I went through like 10 test games here, 10 test games here, 10 test games here, another 10 test games here of just expansions, and I lost my god, and I cast Mistform on my god. I rushed Mistform Research, Skeletal Body, rushed those spells, and Mistform didn't do anything for me. I mean, I'm talking, we went against like 6 light infantry and our god got killed. One would randomly roll 36 damage on one attack with a 10 damage spear. Somehow that would pop us. It was pretty rough. I just decided that this chassis was not dependable enough for expansion unless you had high level earth or something that you could give yourself iron skin with, so I gave up on that idea. Then I went here, where I went with an absolutely ridiculous bless, try to just see if I could go ridiculous in the other direction, and believe it or not, this didn't even work that well, because it was imprisoned, so we got all the buffs and we got decent scales, but the sloth again hurt us, and I just didn't have enough troops to recruit. I eventually settled on the most basic crap ever, but this really works out well because it gives me what I really love about this nation, which is Lords of Civilization late game. If you don't know what that is, that's a big blood spell that gives you basically super unholy blood angels that come in and just absolutely annihilate people. Very fun, very cool, and maybe not so practical, but I think they're awesome, so I wanted to go for it. So I just went with as much flat damage as I could, because you know what I noticed is when I did one of these blesses where I did the 5 times attack skill, I didn't need any of it. Since I was just using my troops as primary expansion, I didn't really need all the attack skill because I wasn't attacking elves. I needed the damage, and that's what this gave me. This gave me the damage on not only my melee troops but also my archers. Now that archers gain half of your damage, this 6 gave us +3 damage on all of our archers as well, and it gave us high level blood magic. So that's what we ended up going with. All right, and just for a quick summary on our plan of attack, we're going to be focusing on high damage cap troops for expansion parties, then focusing all of our gold output into building a ton of castles in mountains and forests to generate crossbows with the forests of Oriande, knights in the plains with ladies of Femini, and the Gog Reaver raiding parties in the mountains. With these small armies, we're a formidable raiding nation, but in the background we have amazing research capabilities, especially with our sages boosted with our magic dominion, so our astral mages can carry the day while we wait for our blood to scale up with lab in non-forted provinces. We get great blood hunters in non-forted provinces with a lab. Just to recap, focus damage on our cap-only troops, rush forts and research, and kill people with dogs, knights, and crossbows until our blood magic comes online for super bloodthirsty angels late game. Alright, and one more quick run over on our pretender. We're doing Strength of the Earth, Strength of the Flesh, strong V-take just because we had an extra point, 8 Dominion for plenty of troops, Order, Productivity, lots of heat because we don't mind heat, Growth, Luck, and Magic. Alright, first thing we're going to do is send our Bishop General here, the Onyx Court. The Onyx Court, if you didn't know, gives us combat training. I almost always micromanage this and put whoever's in base in the Onyx Court. The other person will research. When we're looking at research, first 3 things we want is alteration. Reason for that is it gives us body ethereal, which is an AoE ethereal for our troops, just in case we run into elephants, something similar. Next, I rush Thaumaturgy 4 for paralyze. I have found that mind burn and paralyze help me out a lot when I'm fighting against random troops. If you're gonna fight barbarians or something you really want to nail with some spells, you can hit them with starfires if you want. I just haven't had much luck with starfires or even arcane bolt. Arcane bolt's more for magic troops, but I haven't had much luck with starfires. It doesn't seem to do enough damage to really make it worth it. And then for evocation, I rush for 5 to get stellar cascades because we can just absolutely annihilate people with this. The old rule of thumb I have is stellar cascades is great for unarmored troops that have higher magic resist because that only reduces the damage by half, and paralyze in thaumaturgy is great for troops that have a lot of armor but lower magic resist. Helps out a lot. So now what we're going to do is go into our recruit. We're going to grab the 3 mirror guards. We're going to lock in Abbot Sage for some research. We're going to to grab as many soldier priests as we can afford with our Dominion, and we're 1 point away, so we'll just grab an archer. Or actually, we can grab a Baculite for the morale boost. Here we go to turn 2. Turn 2, we have our commander with all of our melee. I always set them up front, hold and attack closest, give our archers a couple turns just holding firing, put our commander up here, let him cast whatever the heck he wants. Sermon of Courage, and we're just going to keep recruiting the same thing. And now what you want to do on turn 2, look for somebody weak, because this guy is not optimal, again, with the bishop generals. I don't like how they have very little to do in combat, so we look around for something weak. Militias, archers, heavy infantries should be pretty solid. Wolf tribe. Let's hit the wolf tribe. We know they're the weaker ones. So we're going to hit the wolf tribe. We're going to see what happens. There we go. Looks like we killed them pretty easily. All right, this is our first turn of attack on the wolf tribe. We're going to see how we do. When you look at us with our blessing, we're doing 22 damage, and even our archers are doing 14 damage with their arrows, so they're leading the way with quite a bit of damage up front. Now, the reason we want them to hold and fire archers is because with 14 damage of piercing, if you look at our protection of 15, that can actually hurt us as well. So it's better if we're not plinking ourselves in the head the whole time. Looks like success. We're going to pick another weak province. Militias, archers, heavy infantries. We can go in here, change this over to soldier priest, because that's what we prefer. You can keep one of the Baculites in there if you're worried about getting sacred rush, and I wouldn't be against it. In fact, it helps quite a bit against any troops like that. But right now, what we're looking at is we have quite a few troops. Throw it on one of your mages, put them in the Onyx Court to build up that experience. Once you have a large enough army, I would say about 16 of these troops, you want to be able to throw them onto Primate King, 16 to 20 of them. So what I do now is I generally put Primate King on recruitment on turn 3. Got another perfect battle. Let's see how it goes. Archers hitting those light infantry and militias pretty quickly. There we go. Perfect. Still looking pretty good in terms of size. Let's see. Can we take on the 110 Wolf Tribe Archers and Warriors? Sure. We invested this much into a Bless, so we might as well take advantage of it. Perfect. Yep. Looks like our damage is just too much for them. Still looking solid. Go to another weak province. We've got 2 provinces we can tag here. Go back and see. We've got our king. There he is, our Primate King. We got an Earth one. Perfect. That should eventually give us personal Iron Skin. But until it does, we're going to need him to come out and attack. Now, putting him up close here and having him on Claim Life does help kill a lot of enemy troops, so I recommend that for sure. And one thing I would do, switch which one of these guys is in the Onyx Court, but the turn that you don't have any troops laying around, you don't have to worry about it. I also like to send this guy out to build a temple, sometimes 2 at once, just so I can get my recruitment going up. Also, we want to start recruiting in unforded provinces, so you might want to be keeping an eye out for where you can put a lab. That's the whole reason we took the scales. And let's see what happens. Random assassination. No idea why spiders hate my guys. Let's see how our troops are doing with our strength bless. The most basic of all blesses, but it's working. Yep. If you pick the right battles, you never really lose. We've got that. Quite a few injuries. I'm dumb. I should have told him to go out and attack. I did not do that. All right. Now we can go out and take a slightly bigger province. Build ourselves a temple in 2 provinces. Those are important. And then we'll have him build a lab. I like how this one's tucked away a little more defensively. Wow, we really messed up with that. Don't do that. Send him out the second you have him ready. We won that battle. Won that battle. Make sure everything's going the way we want. See, our damage is high enough to take care of those heavy infantry, so you never get stuck in those battles where the heavy infantries are just taking all your damage, surviving and causing attrition. Heavy cav didn't cause too much trouble. Great. Part of the reason the heavy cav doesn't cause too much trouble either is because, well, that one's not the one we want to look at. That they only have 10 or 11 attack skill. We don't always get hit by the lance charge, and it's one of those beneficial things that helps us out quite a bit. We can actually go there because it'd be nice to have something in the farmland. That being said, this guy should build us a lab. Have this gentleman go running over here to build us another temple, because that enables us to build 2 more soldier priests per turn. Running into the Onyx Court, build ourselves another Primate King, get over to our troops. They're still looking good, and start looking around for forests you want. This is a great one. And then we're probably going to go here for the highlands, because highlands and mountains are where we get the Gog reavers. I want to show you guys how quickly we can get into those. Just a giant blending wheel. This one's a little more iffy because they had crossbowmen. Yep, might wipe us out. Pretty rough. Light infantries. I'm telling you, sometimes these light infantries just roll 66666 for some reason. Very little problem with that. If you like, grab one of these primates first to start summoning the heathens and also fighting off the unrest. But this is what I'm looking for, the Cannibal Shaman Chief. These guys have easy, if they pull a blood 2, they have easy blood hunting capabilities. I really like getting those guys when I can. Let's head over here and make ourselves another temple. Have this guy start to construct palisades so we can start pumping out crossbows. This poor bishop, we can bring him back. That way we have somebody designated to sit inside of the site, which we should be getting. Keep checking these to make sure we can get another one as we build temples. It's a lot of micromanagement, but with Ind, if you keep up the micromanagement, it works pretty well. See, and that's the difference between having one of these primate kings dropping bombs on the enemy with his claim life versus the bishop general who we just saw fail last turn. This guy has no combat spells that he can drop other than Sermon of Courage, so it's kind of hugely detrimental to not have any benefits like that. Get ourselves a temple here. Come build a lab. Got another primate king. Let's get him over here, see what he can do against these light heavy infantries and crossbowmen. Crossbowmen make me nervous. Nothing really good for us to go for here. Quite a lot of troops. Sometimes bringing them together is the safest option you can do. See if we have any more. Nope, change that. Get that back over to the Abbot Sage. See what else we have to do. This guy hasn't built a temple yet. This guy hasn't built a castle yet. Cool, like we won it again. Not nearly as many crossbows as they had indicated. We're okay with overdoing it. Sometimes with Ind, it's just easier to overdo it rather than to underdo it. Send him there. I'm sending him there because he has the Iron Skin spell he can cast, or Stone Skin, whatever he's at now. That'll protect him from the random arrows from the Bear Tribe warriors if they have any. We can send one of them over to the Barbarians, see if we can't knock out both provinces. Ah, there we go. Got a blood 2. This is great. Now we want to start looking for a blood province. This is a great one. What we want to do is cancel our Shaman Chief, the next one anyway. Get one of these primates as a patroller. Grab ourselves one of those. Move him over here. Get a temple and a lab in here. I have a sneaking suspicion this is going to be Piconye because it's farmland, but we're hoping it'll take over the mountains. 3 more of those. See, we have an excess of resources and recruitment points, but what this does is it gives us more points once we find those reavers. All right, continuing our year 1 expansion. Pretty good kill. Slaughtered the Bear Tribe warriors and the shaman. They only have a spear and a javelin? Yeah, spear and a javelin. Shamans can get annoying with random spellcast summons, but barbarians, no chance. Let's see why. The big thing about barbarians is their damage is great, but their attack skill isn't. Missed. That's the key right there. Kept them alive for a while. They're missing just enough to make the difference, I think. Our protection rolls were kicking butt there, though. Avoid those guys. They hit like trucks and they hurt. You hit like a truck too, so that's sort of the benefit to the strength bless on these guys, is that you hit like such a truck with all of your troops that you don't really mind provinces that hit like trucks too much because you hit back just as hard. Blood Hunt, we got some blood slaves. Now what we need to do, put him on a research and then give him a day off, because what'll happen is if this guy doesn't have any bodyguards, he's going to get killed by a random assault of peasants. Once we finish here, we should be able to get huntresses to give us a few free spawn for patrolling. 8,000, that's going to be a good spot for, actually, we should the lab here before we go marching off. That way we can start pumping out more blood hunters. Went well, as usual. The only problem with heavy infantries is when you get stuck. Bring our troops together here. Build him another temple, another one of those. See, you have plenty of resources and recruitment points this strategy. And this is turn 12, so this will be our final turn. So he won't matter for expansion. Heck, this might not matter. We'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. Plains province, so we don't want a castle here. So yeah, let's throw in a lab. Make it another blood hunting province. It'll just be the most loss possible with blood hunting. But we're okay with that. All right, guys, so this is turn 13, just after year 1. I haven't done anything on 13, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 provinces, which, believe it or not, is one of the better setups I've had. These guys are pretty tough to expand with if you don't have something specific for it. The primary time we're going to start skyrocketing our research goals is when we get castles up in various areas. Once we start pumping out sages here, and sages here, basically triple our research income, in the second year we'll skyrocket. And here we are at the end of year 1, so I wanted to show you guys some end of year 1 goals. We're looking at research, we're looking under alteration here. Go to astral, that's everybody has it, even your sages. Body Ethereal is a really effective spell to drop on your troops against expansion. Persian armies and stuff like that. Primate kings that pull earth. Personal iron skins, always good to start the battle with before they start spamming claim life. Those are good little tricks you can use. You get your alteration up. 2 or 3 different ways I go about it. First way I go about it when I'm not focusing on blood magic is I go up thaumaturgy, specifically because thaumaturgy is amazing for astral magic. I like paralyze if I'm against any elephants, mind burn if I'm against barbarians or anybody with low magic resistance, then I go into paralyze. And then later if you're against any thugs, soul slay, amazing against thugs. That's kind of where I aim, is alteration, then I go for thaumaturgy up to level 4, and then I head over to evocation and I head up to level 5 for stellar cascades. This spell is amazing if people don't have a ton of armor on their troops, which is really good against neutrals and independents and all that. Now, if you go the blood magic, which I highly recommend, once you get alteration 3 basic stuff, you can immediately switch over into blood magic. My recommendation though is if you're going blood magic, the first thing you want to do is rush Struction 5. I'll put a link to my blood magic video down below. Whenever you're pulling these blood 2, if you put a sanguine dowsing rod on them, they're treated like blood 3, and that guarantees that they pass the first of 3 checks in blood magic. What you don't want is you don't want a bunch of these level 1 blood mages running around having only a 33% chance to succeed and failing repeatedly, giving you unrest, because I already put 15 or 20 defense in every one of these provinces, because this is for 20 defense, it's a 210 gold investment if I remember correctly, and if you only go to 15 is a like 150 gold investment. I would rather do the extra 60 gold to give me that patrol strength, because that helps a lot with blood hunting. Because patrol strength, if you don't, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to do the math to recruit just enough to counteract average unrest per turn of 14, which is essentially 28 patrol strength. So what you can do instead is look at the patrol strength of 6 here, reduce that down to 22, and then over time it'll save you a little bit of money on upkeep cost on these troops. Now, that's not too big of a deal. I recommend when you get up one of these huntresses and start producing free lions, use those for most of your patrolling, and then you can stop putting defense in these provinces. Then you go all the way back down to 6. Early game, it's nice to get, at least 15, but then you go up to 20, you get an exponential increase in the patrol strength. And then when you go back to magic, once you get that construction 5, you can turn your blood 2s into blood 3s, and by then you'll already have a good chunk of 60 to 80 blood slaves. Then you can start looking through your blood magic and dabbling. All right, and just a super brief touch up on what we made our pretender. We have an insane amount of blood magic on him. I don't recommend blood hunting in the capital. That'll cripple your income. But with this, you can easily delve into spells such as Father Illard, and that's going to break you into some pretty good super combatant strategy. All right, looking at summonings we can get. This is how we break into other paths. The blood magic all the way at the bottom, the released Lords of Civilization. I've got all of them here. I wanted to show you. Here's one, Archery. He gives us Earth and Astral, which we can get through Poseidon as well. He's Father Illard, a higher level blood magic, which I highly recommend. But we can get Archery. If we do, he's at least good at Earth and Astral. We already have good Astral and Fire, so Shamshil feels like he doesn't really break us into too much, but this is higher level Fire, so you can forge a Flame Helmet and get even higher. Azazel, he is more spread out than most, not as useful for breaking into paths. Cockable is Astral and Blood, which doesn't really help us much at all, but this gentleman here helps us quite a bit with high nature magic. You put a Thistle Mace, then he can cast Mother Oak. You can get a bunch of nature gems for income. He's a healer. Final Ezekiel breaks us into air. Forge an air helmet, put it on, and cast all the major air spells for us. In addition to the Grigori, we can summon ourselves the Heliophagi. We get a couple of the Heliophagi. They're all really good assassins. Some of them summon allies. I think this guy summons that you can add to your armies. But this guy also breaks you into high level fire, a Maimon. And then the best ones are Mabakil and Gorillon, who break you into high level death. Once you get this level 4 death, you're pretty good to go. So these guys break you into pretty high level death, get you set up. We also have a couple low level angel summons. This is a Malik. You can look this all up on the mod inspector, but these guys are pretty easy to summon with our basic troops and our god. The Ophons, these guys are hilarious. They're the only angels that actually have natural protection. All the rest of them are this no protection, awe, and invulnerable stuff. This one's invulnerable 20 and awe. This guy said screw invulnerable. I'm going with the awe and natural protection, which is great because that means you can buff his natural protection with temper, spells, iron skins. Will buff his protection even further. This guy is a monster. He tramples, he's size 7, a great monster, but honestly, the angels are so expensive to summon for that sort of thing. I feel like it's a lot better to have Maliks ferrying troops around, doing stuff, and keeping them in combat with the rest of your troops. It's a lot easier to have them in combat, because if you try to make these guys like some kind of super combatant or thug, they have too many holes in their defense. They're too easy to stop. Alright guys, here's a quick example of how to deal with tramplers. I know troglodytes aren't the biggest tramplers, but frankly for our little size 3 guys it doesn't really matter how big they are. They're size 6, they're plenty big to trample us, and this causes a lot of problems for a lot of Ind players, but I wanted to show, even with just our strength bless, if you have a couple mages and cast body Ethereal, Ethereal makes it so much harder for the troglodytes to trample over them, and then the simple fact that every one of our troops does 22 damage, we're gonna thump through these troglodytes with little to no problem. As you can see them getting turned ethereal, it's making it a lot harder to suffer attrition. And they're just one-shotting. And then I have them on Mind Burn right afterwards. So they're landing some Mind Burn. Troglodytes are notoriously weak against anything requiring a magic resist check. So if you check troglodytes, they're just like a lot of animals that have low magic resist, like elephants. So try that trick out. Little body ethereal to protect your troops, but also Mind Burn or Paralyze to get them. Alright guys, and here's an example of why I like the Gog Reavers so much. They're such goofy dorks running around, but they've got their Berserker and their 3 attacks. And we're running with 40 of them, I think, here, against 30 knights and a bunch of their friends, and knights are no joke, obviously, with their 18 protection, 16 defense, the lance shot, the broadsword. These knights even have a little bit of experience. I don't even know if my Gogs do. No, they don't. And let's see exactly what it looks like when Gogs hit knights. Look at that. Just chopping them up like a blender. Ridiculous how much damage they do. And then they're berserking, so they're not going to retreat. Little blenders. Cannot ask for much better than that. Alright guys, this is going to be the basis for our combat testing. We're going to set up, we have Ind over here with a bunch of their soldier priests in a line. We have one commander in the back. We have Marignon coming with a bunch of knights on hold and attack rear, a ton of swordsmen, man-at-arms, a couple pikemen here and there, and we have a bunch of crossbows and protected commanders in the back. So we're going to watch what the basic attack is if we have no mages on this side. It's not going to go well for him. So the knights broke through, got to our commander, and obviously killed him. How are we doing so far? Let's take a look. Dead, 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 dead. Lots of the baculites are dead. Crossbowmen are all perfectly fine. A lot of the knights died, so we're actually doing well against them with the damage we deal with our bless. Halberds are fine. Man-at-arms are all alive. Mirror guards are dying. So we're losing these battles on a small, it's 225 troops against like 400 troops, I think. And we're losing the battle when we take magic out of it. Most of our soldier priests are dead. You can see all the dead, 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 dead. And this is before they rout from the commander being killed. So obviously this is not going well for us. Now what I'm going to do is show you guys a couple examples of spells you can cast in the battle to remove certain aspects of this battle going poorly. Alright, now I whittled it down to just soldiers versus crossbowmen, just so we can see what happens. If you remember from our archery video, if you have 280, almost 300 crossbows versus 250 ordinary soldiers with 14 protection, you're going to absolutely slaughter them. So we're just going to see what happens when we cast Arrow Fend to turn the tides and see it, and later we'll test and see if Mist is better. Let's see, do they have it? Yep, they got Air Shield 80%. All right, let's see how it goes. Still getting some decent damage off. There we go. Massacre. Whew, only 17 losses. That's pretty bonkers. Let's try it out with mistform now. Alright, I made a little mistake. I tried to set up the same test as Arrow Fend with soldiers versus archers, but I accidentally added in more troops. So theoretically, if Arrow Fend and Mist, Army of Mists is equal, then we will have more losses here. So let's test it out. Yeah, this is a big advantage for the crossbows, because now they're not, but look, you can see only 3 soldiers got popped in this one. Only 3 so far. Wow. Now closer to like 5 or 6. Oh, wow, that seemed way more effective. Oh, yeah, much more effective. So look at that. So if you guys are comparing arrow fend versus Army of Mist is far superior even against ranged. All right, for our first example of a buffed battle, we're going to take Arakiel, who has Earth Magic, just to show what we can do with Earth Magic. We have Hidosian, which should be Poseidon, but whatever, they misspelled it. And he's going to cast Army of Gold, and he's going to cast Temper Army. So we're going to see when they cast that. There we go. Legions of Steel, Army of Bronze. So now these guys should have 13 natural protection. They actually should have more, but yeah. Now their protection's 24. 24 for the Soldier Priests, 25 for the Mirror Guards. Sort of what we're looking at. Now I tried to put these guys on personal buffs afterwards. He's fatigued out, which is good. He's not fatigued out, which is not great, but I just told him cast a couple personal buffs and then attack closest so he doesn't interact with the battle too much. See how it goes. Whoa, what just happened? Curse of Stones. Okay, that's awkward. Much different outcome. Let's see if the crossbowmen can even hurt us. Wow, Soldier Priest got a lot of kills there because they're just base damage. You see the crossbows got the majority of the kills, probably because of head hits, I would guess. Royal Guards only killed 9. No man-at-arm kills. No Piconye kills. No swordsman kills. That's pretty impressive. That's a big old difference. Let's check out another buff. Many ways you can skin a cat, boys. I decided to do this one with just fire. We have most of these guys scripted to just do Phoenix power and then start spamming falling fires. Periphalagos is going to be casting Fire Fend on our troops so we don't suffer nearly as much attrition as they do. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it goes. What is this? Ah, Firestorm. Yes, he's also casting Firestorm. See if this started helping. We all have Fire Resist 5. Well, sure looks like we did all right. This is the power of Ind, is the diversity we can bring to the battlefield late game. Not shabby at all. All right, guys, now to show some versatility, I'm going to play with Death with Ind. We're going to have a couple guys scripted to cast Horde of Skeletons once, and then Plague. Plague is a short-range spell, but it causes people to just spread a plague amongst anything that's not mindless. So we've got a bunch of thralls with 0 protection, 10 hit points, absolute garbage. And, even with this many guys spamming Horde of Skeletons, we would lose this fight pretty handily. But with my front guys casting Plague a couple times, Plague spreads rapidly, and we have that diversity within. So let's see how this fight goes. All right, we're trying another outnumbered army, but now what we're going to do is we're going to have a couple astral mages here with the Banner of the Northern Star to boost all the astral mages levels. And then what we're going to do, we have a couple mindless guys here just to be safe, just to be sure. But we have one of us casting anti-magic to give us resistance to this Astral Tempest spell. And then we're going to drop Astral Tempest and Doom on the enemy so they all get cursed. So let's see how it goes. So now all of our guys are resistant to magic much more than theirs are. We just cast Astral Tempest. So now they're all just taking 1 point of damage here and there, which is slaughtering them right now. Look at that. Look at all that little damage. We're getting hit here and there, but not as much. What are these guys? Oh, they're all cursed. Oh yeah, everybody on their team is cursed now. Let's see how this battle goes. Oh, that's quick. Oh yeah, that's real quick.